Welcome to the scientific nap. Close your eyes and drift into the hush between the stars. Feel your breath rise and fall like distant planets turning in silence. Tonight, your dreams orbit softly through galaxies of calm. There is no rush here, only gentle drifting. Float weightless, surrounded by a universe of rest. And for a moment, it hovers there, that spark, bright and weightless, just behind your eyes. You don't know if it's memory, idea, or dream, only that it's moving. Slowly at first, then faster, leaving a glowing trail through the dark space of your mind. The black around it is not empty, but velvet thick. Like sleep before it settles, you drift in its current, following the spark deeper in. The sky around you shifts. It's no longer sky, not exactly. It's more like the inside of a thought, vast, echoing, not fully formed. Everywhere, faint glimmers blink in and out, as if stars are trying to remember how to be stars. You float between them, weightless and wondering, until one flickers brighter and begins to fall. The spark falls like a question. It catches heat as it rushes forward, colliding with something you cannot see, but can almost feel a pressure. A resistance, friction, perhaps. Not the kind that burns skin, but the kind that wakes it. You realize it's rubbing against the edges of your silence, scraping a path into awareness. The heat it makes is soft, golden, like a candle pressed to the inside of your ribs. You reach for it, and the moment your fingertips brush its trail, the spark explodes, not violently, but like breath released in starlight. In that flash, a shape begins to form, not outside of you, but within. It curls like a question mark behind your heart. A thought begins to speak itself, a feeling that hasn't yet found its name, around you. More sparks start to fall, dozens, hundreds, a gentle rain of fire across the night of your inner world. They shimmer as they descend, then vanish before touching the unseen ground, and yet their warmth lingers. You know something has been lit, not just in the sky, but in you. Each flare writes something across your skin, a language made of ash and awe. The space you're in begins to pulse faintly with color. Purples and soft oranges ripple through the dark like underwater light. You drift among the sparks, and for a moment, you forget whether you are dreaming or remembering. You only know that it feels like the beginning. Far ahead, something glows brighter than the rest. It doesn't fall, it floats, suspended mid-air, as if waiting. You move toward it, and as you do, the world slows, not with stillness, but reverence. Even the sparks around you seem to pause in their descent. You approach the light like you might approach a sleeping animal, not to wake it, but to wonder at its shape. The light is no longer just a spark. It's a cluster now, spinning gently, like a small star forming in a pocket of your thoughts. Around it, the darkness shimmers, subtly rearranged by its presence, as if gravity has shifted just a little, as if this newborn light already knows how to pull. You realize it's made of pieces, tiny bits of something old, maybe forgotten memories, maybe stories you haven't told yourself yet. They've collided here, in this silent orbit, and caught fire. Not from destruction, but from motion. You remember something distant and real, how meteoroids ignite not from impact, but from speed, from falling fast enough to meet fire in the air dot, and maybe that's what thought is. Not the thing itself, but the speed of its becoming. The light spins faster now, responding to your closeness. You feel its heat, not on your skin, but somewhere deeper in the quiet chamber behind. Your chest, where breath goes when it wants to be more than breath. This is where wonder lives, you think, in the places we forget to name. Suddenly, one piece of the light breaks off and floats to you. It's small, the size of a whisper, but it glows with the same soft certainty. You catch it gently in your palms, and the moment you do, it sinks into your skin. Not with pain, but like a secret being remembered. Like the first word of a story you were always meant to tell. The sky above you shifts again. Now you can see the trail the spark has left, a path of glowing dust across the firmament of your mind. It points forward, toward something distant, and still forming. You don't know where it leads, only that you are meant to follow. The spark was not the end, it was the ignition. All around, more lights shimmer into being. Some fall and vanish, others stay suspended, like thoughts waiting to be chosen. Each one holds a question, or a feeling, or a world, and for the first time you feel the deep truth beneath all of them. Stars don't just burn, they become. A soft wind begins to rise, though there is no air here, only the feeling of motion. It moves through you like a possibility. It smells like the moment before rain. It hums faintly, carrying something with it. Not words, not yet, but something. Close. You close your eyes, and the spark behind them glows steady now. No longer falling, no longer new, just yours. It flickers first as a cluster of half-remembered lights, scattered like secrets across a sky that isn't above you, but around you, infinite, intimate, waiting. The stars don't arrange themselves, not at first. They simply hover. In the dark, like ideas no one ever finished, like names just beyond the tip of your tongue. You float closer, not because you choose to, but because something in them recognizes something in you. One star pulses faintly as you pass, soft and amber, like the hallway light you used to sneak past as a child. Another blinks pale blue, and for a moment you swear it smells like a summer you can't quite place. The air hums with something between sound and memory, and the space around you is no longer just space. It's a gallery of almosts, a sky of things you never meant to forget. The stars begin to shift, not move, exactly, more like they begin to notice each other, as if they, too, are searching for connection. Lines begin to form between them, faint and golden, like cracks in old glass. They draw themselves not with geometry, but with meaning. One links to another because of how you once felt, or how you almost did. The constellation ahead doesn't follow any known shape, no Orion, no Ursa, but it feels familiar, like something drawn from the inside out. You realize you're not looking at stars. Not really, you're looking at moments. Glowing fragments of memory stretched so far into the past that they shine from light years away. Some are dim, maybe they're older, maybe you've let them go. Others are sharp, bright, impossible to ignore. And one, near the center, flares a little too brightly, like it's trying to call you back. You move toward it slowly, through the gentle gravity of recollection. The dark here is not empty, it's thick with meaning, stitched with all the stories you never got around to telling yourself. Every star is a data point in your emotional sky. You didn't draw these constellations. They drew themselves in your absence. The bright one pulses again, and this time you remember it, or part of it. The sound of someone's laughter, the edge of a face half turned in sunlight, a goodbye that felt more like a maybe. It glows with the kind of light that takes years to arrive, light that left its source long ago, but is only now reaching you. Pause there, hovering near it, and suddenly, all the stars around you begin to hum in sympathy. Their light doesn't compete, it harmonizes. They seem to understand that light is not about brightness, it's about timing. Some things only become visible when you're ready to see them, and now you do. You begin to trace the constellation with your eyes, finger extended toward the dark. You follow the soft golden lines from star to star, connecting not just memories, but meanings. A glance, a turning point, a silence that changed everything. The pattern that emerges is imperfect, jagged, beautiful. It's yours far below, or maybe far inside. You sense movement, faint ripples in the fabric of space, spreading from the places where the stars connect. It's as if the act of remembering rewrites the sky itself. And maybe it does. Maybe every time you recall something long buried, the light of that moment has to travel back to you, dodging debris, bending through gravity, refusing to be. Extinguished, you drift deeper into the constellation, and the stars draw closer. You reach toward one, and it flares warm in your hand, becoming solid for a breath. Inside it, you glimpse a younger version of yourself, not in a mirror, but in motion, running, laughing, falling. You try to hold on to it, but it passes through. Your fingers like light, still the warmth stays. Some things aren't meant to be kept, only felt. Behind you, more constellations are forming. New shapes built from memories you've never looked directly at. They draw themselves silently, slowly, not with facts, but with feeling. You realize this sky is infinite, not because of distance, but because of perspective. The more you remember, the more there is to remember. The stars multiply in your wake. Above, a streak of light shoots across the sky, not a star, but a thread, a meteor of memory, burning fast. You follow its trail and find yourself face to face with a constellation that doesn't look like it, belongs to you, and yet something in it stirs recognition. A different kind of memory, not yours, but shared. A moment that passed through someone else's heart and brushed the edge of your own. You begin to wonder how many skies overlap here, how many stories intersect in this same velvet night. The constellations may not all be yours, but their light touches you anyway. And maybe that's what connection really is, a shared glimmer. In a sky no one owns, you drift onward. The stars grow quieter now, softer, like they've told you what they came to tell. One by one, the lines begin to fade, not erased, but resting. The constellation holds its shape without them. It's permanent. Now, stitched into the fabric of wherever this is, as you float through it, something inside you realigns. Not dramatically, just a soft click, like a puzzle piece remembering where it belongs. You don't have to name it. You only have to follow it. It's not a sudden pull, not the kind that yanks or startles. It begins like a question in the chest. Quiet, magnetic. Something tugs at you gently from a direction you can't name. Not above, not below, just inward. A center that isn't marked on any map. You drift toward it without resistance, as if some part of you already agreed. The stars behind you soften into a blur, their light lingering like perfume on skin. Ahead, the space darkens, not in menace, but in density. A planet appears, slow and silent, emerging from shadow. It doesn't shine, it absorbs. Hollow and round, with a surface like black velvet, it waits without urgency. You don't land on it so much as become part of its orbit, pulled closer by something older than want. The gravity here doesn't slam, it sighs, You feel it in your stomach, your ribs, your hands, that familiar ache of returning to a place you almost forgot. The closer you get, the heavier you become, but not in body, in meaning, as if everything you've let slip behind you, every unfinished sentence, every goodbye with no closure has gathered here, waiting to be held again. The atmosphere, if you can call it that, is thick with softness, not air, but memory. It presses gently against your skin, humming with a frequency you can't hear but feel. Echoes drift past, a voice you once trusted, laughter that turned into silence, a smell like old paper and rain. They're not loud, just nearby. As you descend, you see objects suspended around the planet in slow, spiraling motion. They drift in wide rings, like moons that forgot their purpose. One looks like a torn page from a journal you never finished. Another, a rusted key to a door you never returned to. They aren't real, not exactly, but they hold weight, emotional mass. Each object is small, but none of them are light. You reach out and touch one. It wobbles toward you, then settles in. Your palm? It's a smooth stone, warm and silent, and you know immediately what it represents. A moment you let pass because you were afraid of where it might lead. A truth you didn't have the words for. The weight of it presses into your hand like an answer, or maybe a beginning. Below, the surface of the planet curves inward, like a bowl or a listening ear. You descend further, drawn by the steady pull of gravity's memory. The ground isn't solid, but soft, spongy, like old fabric soaked in thought. Each step you take leaves a faint glow, a print of warmth that fades slowly behind you. The center of the planet pulses faintly, like a heartbeat buried deep. You walk toward it, and with each step, you feel more of yourself returning, pieces you didn't realize were missing, regrets you folded into corners, emotions you misnamed as numbness. They rise around you like dust in sunlight, unthreatening, weightless only until you look. In the middle of it all is a well, or something like it. A dark, round opening set into the ground, rimmed with silver ash. You peer into it and see nothing. At first only depth, but then a light flickers far below, and you understand. It's not empty. It's full of every version of you that ever tried to forget. You lower yourself beside it, feeling the pull grow stronger. It's not trying to take you, it's trying to show you. The pull of gravity is the pull of matter, and you are made of matter. You are pulled toward what holds meaning, even when you turn away. One by one, the orbiting objects begin to descend, drawn to the well's gentle pull. They float past you, a scarf, a melody, a name. They vanish into the darkness below without sound, but the air shifts with each one, like the world is exhaling something it's held too long. You lean closer, not to fall, just to listen. And in the quiet, you hear it, not words, not memories, just presence. The ache of what was important, the gravity of what remained unresolved, not as a burden, but as an invitation. You realize then, gravity doesn't punish, it gathers. It keeps close what might otherwise drift forever. Even forgotten things want to come home. Above, the sky inside this hollow world begins to shimmer faintly. The gravity loosens its grip, not because it's finished, but because it understands. You've seen what needed to be seen. You rise gently, lifted not by resistance, but release. The orbiting objects have stalled. The air grows lighter, and as you begin to drift upward, the well below flickers one last time, not in farewell, but in promise it curves, upward in soft arcs. This glowing path, wide and luminous, like the shell of a snail left behind in moonlight. You follow it slowly, weightless now, the pull of gravity loosened behind you. Each step makes no sound, only a hush, as though the air itself is remembering how to breathe. The spiral lifts you gently, and ahead, something shimmers with tidal rhythm, a shoreline stitched from stars. The ground beneath your feet shifts from stone to dust to something in between. Not earth, not sky. It feels like time, slowed and settled. Before you, an ocean unfurls, not of water, but of moving light. It breathes in long, glowing waves that stretch into the horizon, folding over themselves like silk. Each tide seems to carry a different temperature, a different memory. Some feel like summer evenings, others like the weight of winter coats, and unsaid things. You step closer, the sea rises to meet you. Its surface is not flat, but alive with flickers, images, moments, almost memories. A child's voice calling your name, then gone. The feel of your fingers on cold glass. A silence between heartbeats that once felt like a choice. The tide brushes your ankles and time slips sideways. Overhead, the moon hangs low, too large, too close, but gentle. One half is silver and still, pockmarked with ancient quiet. The other half mirrors you entirely, your face reflected in motion, not frozen but flowing, like a river remembering itself. You blink, and the reflection changes. Now it's you as a child, now as someone you almost became. The moon is a coin spinning through versions of you, never landing. The waves continue, pushing forward and pulling back, not just in motion, but in feeling. One tide brings longing, another, peace. A third drags something up from beneath, a memory so old you aren't sure if it's yours. And still the moon watches, its gravitational breath shaping the rhythm of your journey. You begin to walk along the shoreline. With each step, the sea adjusts, as if it knows what to bring you next. The moments that wash up are not random. A letter you never sent. A question that changed the shape of a decade. They arrive, recede, return again, slightly different each time. Like waves reshaping a single shell. Ahead, a tide larger than the others begins to rise. Not fast, not frightening, but certain. It builds light into height until it towers. Quietly before you, a wall of shimmering time. You don't run, you don't need to. As it crests, it doesn't crash. It folds over you like a memory you've stopped resisting. And in that fold, you fall for a moment deeper now. Not a past, not a future, but a braided loop of both. You feel everything at once. The beginnings, the middles, the endings that never quite ended. You don't drown, you drift. Inside this current, time stops behaving. Seconds stretch into years. Minutes curl back on themselves. You watch one version of yourself reach out to another, fingertips grazing. You understand suddenly that time isn't a line, it's an ocean, and you have always been swimming in it, even when you thought you were still. The wave carries you gently, releasing you back to the shore. You rise again, changed but unbroken. Your feet touch the sand, and something beneath it glows. A tide pool carved into the beach, clear, shallow, full of reflected moons. You kneel beside it, and as you look in, the water begins to write in ripples, not words, shapes, spirals, rhythms. You realize they match the path that brought you here. The ocean, the moon, your heartbeat, all speaking in tide language, where emotion becomes motion and gravity becomes memory. You sit beside the tide pool for a while, the waves hum, the moon turns slowly, showing yet another version of your face. Not older, not younger, just truer. You understand now why it pulls the sea, and why the sea answers. They are not opposites. They are dance partners, forever caught in the rhythm of call and response. Behind you, the spiral path shimmers, fading. It has done its work. Before you, the ocean pulses once more. This time, the tide doesn't recede. It waits, like an inhale before something new, like a clock learning how to exhale. At first you think it's an illusion, the silver coin of the moon quietly pulling apart, one half drifting toward the sea, the other rising into the clouds. But then you feel it, a shift in the weight of the air, as though gravity itself has turned slightly in its sleep. The tide doesn't rush forward. Instead, it lifts in place, suspended, like a thought you're not quite ready to finish. You raise your hand, instinctively, to shield your eyes. And when you open your fingers, something astonishing happens. The stars between your fingertips bend inward, not dimming, not disappearing, but curving, as if your palm has grown heavier than light. It's not power, it's permission. The sky responds to your gesture like memory does to emotion, with quiet, impossible shape. Around you, the horizon begins to ripple, and a soft chamber unfolds, not made of walls, but of interwoven starlight, stitched in angles that shouldn't meet and yet do. A folded dome, like a map, crumpled and then smoothed again. You're inside something ancient, but it feels new, like walking into a dream that's still remembering how to form. The air inside this space has no clear direction. You take a step forward and feel yourself slide slightly sideways. Another step, and a version of yourself flickers to the left, then fades. These echoes aren't reflections. They are possibilities, wrapped into the folds of where and when you are. One smiles, one hesitates, one walks in the other direction entirely. None of them are wrong. The stars above and below are closer now, unreasonably close, as if distance has curled in on itself. You see constellations warped into ellipses, their patterns made strange by proximity. You reach out, and one of them shivers, then jumps, a light skipping from one side of the chamber to another. It doesn't move through space, it moves through folds, like turning pages in a book that never ends. You look down at your hand again. The same strange curve appears, soft and shimmering. It's not light that bends, it's time. Each wrinkle in your palm holds a timeline, a path, a might have been. You realize now that this chamber isn't around you, it's inside you. The shape of your life, folded and unfolding in a language only your choices can speak. There is no up, no down, just angles of meaning. One fold leads to a memory that never happened but could have. Another to a silence you once avoided. A third to the version of you who said yes instead of no. You step toward that one, slowly, and the chamber tilts, gently, welcoming. You feel no regret, only awe, as if every version of you is holding hands behind the curtain of now, singing the same quiet note. Somewhere in the folds, time thickens. You can feel it, like a slow current passing through the bones of the space. You sit down carefully, unsure whether you're touching the floor, ceiling, or something else entirely. In this place, everything touches everything eventually. You close your eyes, and the folds shift again, not chaotically, but like breath. expanding, contracting, becoming dot, a low hum begins, not sound exactly, but curvature made audible. The chamber breathes with you, each inhale bending light closer, each exhale releasing a thread of time into the dark. You see yourself at different distances, not older, not younger, just parallel, like stars that sing in harmony but never collide. You wonder how many of you are here, curled into the fabric of space like questions, still waiting for their shape. You open your hand again. This time, a thread of light rests gently in your palm, not heavy, not bright, but deliberate. It feels like gravity, softened into a whisper. You watch as it folds once, then again, bending time like ribbon. With each crease, a possibility enters focus. You don't need to choose, you only need to witness, and then a strange feeling. Not fear, not loss, closeness, as if something once distant has folded all the way back. You turn, and there, across a bend in the air, is someone familiar. You, but not exactly. This one carries something you set down long ago. A dream, a direction, a version of wonder. They smile gently. You nod, and just for a moment, the folds overlap, and you are the same again. The hum quiets, the folds settle. The chamber begins to dim, not into darkness, but into stillness, like ink drying on the last page of a journal. You stand, and the threads draw inward, curling once more into your hand. The sky above reforms, but not as it was. Stars where they shouldn't be. Time where it wasn, single quotes too. Behind you, the ocean is waiting again, as if no time passed at all. The breath rises slowly through. The ground, a soft tremor in the fabric of what you thought was solid. It pulses once beneath your feet, then again, smaller. The folds are thinning, not fading, but concentrating, tightening like the moment before a whisper. The stars above tilt slightly, as if something underneath has drawn their attention, and then, without falling, you begin to diminish, not vanish, just shrink, gently, evenly, like pouring yourself into a smaller shape. The folds around you balloon upward, becoming valleys, then cliffs, then an endless cathedral of molecules stretching into dark. Gravity shifts its grip, becoming velvet. The air slows. You are no longer the size of a story. You are smaller than a sound. You pass through a strand of something humming, not music, not meaning, just the raw, suspended question of it. Every particle hums differently. Some in grief, some are longing, some in the voice of maybe. The closer you move toward stillness, the more you realize that nothing here is still. Every point wriggles softly, a dance of waiting. And one, just one, seems to pause when you pause. You turn to it, though there is no turning here, only shifting direction through thought. And there it is, a flickering speck. No shape, no color, just a hesitation in the dark. It doesn't call, it doesn't hide, but it waits. A small, trembling maybe, hanging in the breath between was and will be. You move closer. The moment you notice, it becomes clearer. A faint presence unfolding at the edge of certainty. And though it has no mouth, no language, something inside it speaks. I exist when you look. The voice is not sound, not speech, but recognition reflected back. A mutual acknowledgement, not of form, but of being. Around you, other flickers begin to sway. Some brighten, some vanish, some split in two. The world here is not built on laws. It is built on possibilities, shifting, curling, collapsing into what you choose to see. Every observation folds the world a little tighter around itself, like a secret wrapping itself in your eyes. The particle still trembles. You reach out with your awareness, not a hand, not a thought, but something softer, and it begins to steady. Not because it changes, but because you are here. And in this place, presence is permission. It pulses once, twice, then expands, not in size, but in certainty. A dot becoming a doorway. You pass through it. On the other side, everything is dim and gleaming at once, like the underside of a dream you almost forgot. You float between lattice works of could be, shimmering threads of time, curling into moments that never happened but always might. This is the world before choice, the fabric of not yet, and the particle now, a glimmering node of awareness orbits beside you, tethered by attention. It tells you things without telling, that it has always existed here, fluttering in the gaps of reality's breath, that every version of the world holds a version of it, but it only knows itself when someone sees. Maybe the universe itself doesn't unfold like a book, but like a stage, with spotlights made of awareness, and truths rehearsed in silence until they're watched. And what if you are not just the watcher? You feel something open behind your eyes, a widening, not outward, but inward. The kind of widening that happens when you remember yourself without mirrors. You wonder how many particles have passed through your life, unnoticed, truths, people, memories, maybe even parts of you, waiting softly to be seen. You drift now through a cloud of flickering presences. Each one blinks in and out, shyly, uncertain if it's meant to be real. And when you glance toward one, it steadies. Another looks like a word you never spoke. Another a version of love you never reached for. Each particle, maybe. Each may be a secret. Each secret an opening. You do not feel overwhelmed, only gently surrounded, like the hush before a snowfall when the air is waiting for its own weight. You pause, and in that pause, something stirs inside you. Not knowledge, but attention. A warmth that builds not from understanding, but from witnessing. The particle by your side flutters again, as if to say, even the smallest thing wants to be real. You nod, and it brightens, not into light, but into presence. A confirmation, a becoming. You don't need to hold it. You only need to stay. And with that, the space around you begins to hum with quiet coherence. A slow alignment, like pieces falling into place, not because they must, but because they're ready. The world doesn't end. It just shifts again. The lattice dims, the cloud softens, and you begin to grow, or return, or unfold. It's not the same as before. You carry something now. Not the particle itself, but the knowing of it. That even the universe listens for the moment it's seen, that you rise, gently, through layers of might be and could have. The folds above begin to stretch again, like sky drawn back from a curtain of light. Your shape reforms, not out of control, but invitation. Reality curls around you like breath returning after silence. You land softly, not where you started, but close. You are full of things you can't quite name. Glimmers, maybe. Tiny truths. Unseen things that finally felt your gaze. You turn slowly, not with eyes, but with gravity. A pull you don't resist. Not curiosity exactly, more like resonance. The flicker doesn't glow like the others. It bends the space around it. It rearranges what you thought was still. Shapes drift closer. Distance folds inward. And without understanding how, You're moving through a darkness you didn't know was open. The air thickens, but not with fear. With weight, with significance. Every step hums with the pressure of what isn't seen. Before you, something vast begins to form, not from matter, but from the way matter responds. A cathedral, not of stone or stars, but of bending and pull. No walls, no roof, just gravity arranged into memory. A structure made entirely of absence, and the things drawn to it. You step inside. The space within is not empty, it's held. Pillars rise where nothing stands. Arches curve overhead, sketched by the way starlight curves through the void. You feel it before you see it, a force arranging motion, guiding orbits, keeping time in silence. And though no light touches your skin, you feel illuminated, as if something knows you're here far above. Two stars spiral in silence. Their paths cross, then merge, then erupt without flame. No sound reaches you, but your bones register the impact like memory, like grief that bloomed in silence. The echo travels not in waves, but in pull. You feel it beneath your ribs, in the space behind your heart. The pulse of collision, not light, but gravity speaking through its own language. This place, it's not made of stars. It's shaped by what holds the stars. Something unseen, yet central. Something that threads galaxies together like breath through a chest you've never seen. Dark matter, you realize, not as shadow, but as structure. The body beneath the body, the feeling beneath the thought, the gravity of everything you've never named. You walk deeper into the dark. Around you, galaxies bend like glass, not broken. Shaped, you reach toward one, and it warps, not away, but around. Your presence redirects its light. You are not interrupting, you are lensing. For a moment you glimpse what hides behind it, a cluster of stars too faint to shine on their own, revealed only by your angle of attention. Is this how emotions live too? The thought settles like dust in the hollow of your chest, that maybe there are whole worlds inside you, feelings so quiet they bend your decisions without ever speaking. That love, loss, longing, they move like dark matter, never touching, directly, yet shaping everything. What if the path you took was never the straightest, but the most curved by what you couldn't name? You stand beneath a dome that isn't there, and yet you feel enclosed safely by the logic of invisible things. The cathedral hums again, a low, slow pull, as if waiting for you to admit you're made of it too. Not just atoms and memories, but unseen forces, an architecture of ache and wonder. Another pulse ripples through the black, not violent, just fast. A second collision in the far distance. This one is quieter, like a decision made with no witnesses. You sense it changes the shape of space, and in doing so, changes the way you walk. You no longer know if you're choosing your direction, or if you're being drawn by the truth of where you're needed. Either way, you continue. The pews of this cathedral are not places to sit. They are orbits, circles where stars used to rest before being moved. You drift past them like a thought searching for meaning. The floor below you is not still. It swells and narrows with every gravitational bloom. You are walking across a heartbeat, a dark matter heart. And though it's silent, you know it feels. It's not dead space. It's holding space. Not empty, but full of everything not yet named. Emotions that never made it into language. Histories never remembered. Forces that shaped your path but never asked for credit. You realize, suddenly, that this heart, this dark weight of presence, isn't just around you, it's inside you, has always been. You pause beneath what feels like a window, though there's no glass, no frame, just a view into deeper dark. Beyond it, something curls toward you, not an object, a presence, a shape made of gravitational threads. It's not reaching to be seen, it's reaching to be felt. You open, not like a door, like a center, like something. Inside you makes room for something vast and nameless. It doesn't hurt, it softens, it rearranges the architecture of your own cathedral. And you understand, in a way without words, that just because something can't be seen doesn't mean it isn't real. Some truths prefer to orbit quietly until you're ready to feel their pull. The light returns gradually, not from within, but from stars you hadn't noticed, bending gently toward the corners of your attention. Shapes become clearer though. They never solidify. The cathedral is still dark, still made of pull and possibility, but you no longer fear its silence. You feel its embrace. A star drifts past your shoulder, small, newborn, burning blue. Not close, just clearer now that something else has shifted. It's like you tuned in to the part of the universe that moves behind the scenes, and now it sees you too. You breathe in, the cathedral does not disappear. It simply becomes part of your motion, an echo stitched into your steps. A memory made of pull, the curve draws you forward, not in a line, but like a ribbon caught in the wind. You don't feel yourself walking anymore, you drift. The dark cathedral fades behind you, not with finality, but with forgiveness, and in its place comes a warmth, golden, hazy, shifting like breath against glass. The air thickens into something luminous, and time seems to slow into a soft vibration. You're floating now, suspended in a fog of gentle light. Each particle hums as it brushes past your skin, not touching, but almost remembering. Mist rolls through you like memory misplaced. It glows in golds and ambers, in barely their shades of what-ifs. A field of light and feeling, alive but undecided. This isn't a place of solid ground, it's a place of possibility. The fog around you begins to sing, quietly, like the voice of a future not yet chosen. The sound doesn't come from one place, or even from sound at all. It pulses inside your chest, like a forgotten melody you almost remembered. You pause, if you can call it pausing, in a world without edges, and listen. The field sings in probabilities. Each shimmer is a version of something. Not memories, not yet. Potentials, paths you almost took, words you almost said, hands you almost held longer. The laughter you nearly released. The moment you stood on the edge of leaving, and didn't or did. You feel them all, flickering at the edge of presence. Not haunting, just waiting. You lift your hand and 1,000 droplets stir. They swirl upward in spirals that feel oddly personal, as though the field responds to the shape of your doubt. One droplet lingers. It glows softer than the rest, and inside it you see yourself, only not quite. Your hair moves differently. Your eyes hold a question you don't remember asking. And beside you is someone who once could have stayed. You don't move away. The droplet doesn't ask for action. It simply exists, humming at a frequency only your chest can feel. A probability wave, not collapsed, not forgotten. It hasn't become the past or the present. It's still floating. And even here, maybe, it leaves an echo. Even the unreal has gravity. The fog grows denser, not darker. A new wave moves through the field, wider, slower, golden with undertones of blue. This one smells like rain on metal, like childhood, like turning back. You feel pulled again, not by force, but by resonance. The way a song you've never heard can still make you cry. All around you, droplets begin to flicker in rhythm, like fireflies choreographed by longing. Some are warm, others sting. One brushes your cheek and shows you the version of you who spoke louder, loved braver, left sooner. Another one reveals silence, the version who did nothing at all. You who stayed safe, and yet none of them accuse you. The field is not regretful. It's remembrance of the unreal. A quantum field alive with feeling. A landscape shaped by uncertainty. You begin to understand, not in words, but in sensation, that even unchosen paths echo. The probabilities never vanish. They disperse like waves, overlapping and fading, until what remains is the shape of what might have been. Somewhere in the golden mist, you feel a shift. The fog parts slightly, and you find yourself standing, or floating at the edge of a hill that shouldn't be there. Beneath it, a shimmering valley of probabilities curves downward like a bowl of memory. You see your life unfold in ripples, not a straight line, but a vast interference pattern. Each choice sends out a wave. Each silence sends one to dot and in. The center of the bowl, something flickers. Something different, it's not you. And yet it is. A version that no probability predicted. Something born from chaos, from entropy, from a moment so strange that even the field can't hold it still. A stranger you, wilder and wordless, dancing in the folds of the unknown. You reach toward them and they vanish, or maybe fold into you. You feel it then. You've always been more than one story, not in contradiction, but in complexity. The field around you doesn't demand clarity. It just reminds you, even what never happened leaves a shape. Even what you never said had a weight. The quantum waves don't judge. They simply record the presence of possibility and the beauty of uncertainty. You move again, this time with intention, not to choose a version, not to collapse a future, just to feel the way they shimmer against your skin. You begin to hum, softly at first, then louder, until the fog itself harmonizes. It's not a song you know, but it's one the field recognizes. A vibration tuned to your particular existence, to the infinite ways you could have been. The droplets brighten, some merge, some drift, some fall away, dissolving into golden silence. Not because they're lost, but because you're no longer trying to hold them. And maybe that's what makes the field sing louder now. You've let go of trying to name every version of yourself. You're simply listening, softly, openly, like a being made of breath, and maybe a gentle wind, or what feels like wind, stirs the field. The mist begins to thin. Not all the way, just enough for light to begin sifting through. It falls in gentle beams, not from a sun, but from some deeper source, as though a choice far ahead of you just began to take shape. You look toward the light, and in its glow, one droplet lingers near your lips. You don't breathe it in, you don't have to. It knows you now. It hums once and disappears, and somewhere ahead, the air begins to split, not with violence, but with reverence, as if the atmosphere itself has grown too full of secrets and must now release them, like breath breaking against winter. A faint seam opens in the horizon, soft as silk, torn in slow motion, and from it, light begins to fall. You move toward it instinctively. The fog around you dissolves into threads of silver, and the sky, if you can still call it that, begins to hum. At first, it's just a single streak of light arcing across the distance. Then another, then dozens, then thousands. The heavens rain gently, a slow unspooling of incandescent threads, each one trailing with a soft hiss of memory. The meteors do not roar or burn violently. They drift like falling embers from some immense celestial bonfire. Each one seems to pause slightly before touching the ground, as if deciding whether you are the one it came for. And then, just before it vanishes, you hear it. A whisper so quiet it barely stirs your skin. Your name, or something shaped like it. You tilt your face upward. The sky opens wider. Above you is a dome of slow silver motion. Stars trace long curves through the dark, bending not around gravity, but around meaning. These are not random rocks. They fall with purpose, with rhythm, with memory. Not yours, not exactly, but of you. As if the universe remembers the way you once laughed in a storm, or the thought you had before you could speak it aloud. And it's telling you now, I saw that. One meteor lands near your feet, fizzing quietly as it cools. It doesn't crater. The ground there is no damage, no scorch, only a shimmer of warmth, and a smell like wind and something sweeter. Childhood, maybe. You bend down, and when you touch it, your fingertips tingle with recognition. A moment flares in your chest, not a memory, but the feeling of being remembered. You walk slowly, letting the meteors fall around you like soft bells. The air shivers with every passing trail. The sky has turned into a mind dreaming of you, in flickers and arcs. You wonder how long they've been falling like this, or if they were always waiting for now. For you, precisely here, up ahead, you see a shape rising from the haze. Not a building, not a mountain, a spire of memory, formed from celestial debris, its edges glowing with soft blue flame. It breathes with the same rhythm as the stars above. You approach it, drawn not by curiosity, but by recognition, the way you might approach an old photograph you've never seen, but somehow belonged to Dot as you near the spire. The meteors shift their arc. They begin to fall in slow, spiraling patterns. Around you, not chaotic, but choreographed. Their paths bend as if responding to your heartbeat. And that's when you feel it. The resonance. The way certain places make you feel like you've already stood there, even if you haven't. A loop in time, not because it repeats, but because it remembers. You run your hand along the side of the spire. It pulses gently, and an image flickers. In the air beside it, a soft silhouette, a shadow shaped like a younger version of you. They're laughing at something just outside the frame. The image dissolves as quickly as it formed, but the warmth stays, radiating from the stone into your bones. You don't cry, you don't need to. The meteors are doing it for you. They fall like tears the universe never had the chance to shed. Joyful, aching, curious. Each one a particle from a path you once crossed, or might still. Cosmic dust from long destroyed comets. Traveling lifetimes just to brush past your cheek and remind you, you were never alone. Even the smallest things remember. The spire hums again. You close your eyes. Now the meteors land on your shoulders, your hands, your chest. They don't burn. They embed softly into your being, like threads being sewn. You feel them not as weight, but as stitching binding the now you to the once was and the might be. Time curls inward, not collapsing, just folding. A wave of light washes across the valley. The spire brightens with it, and every meteor glows a bit longer before disappearing. You watch their trails stretch and stretch until they blur into glowing lines, like constellations remapped just for this night. You don't know their names, but you know their pattern. They form the shape of something you've always been reaching toward. In this rain of remembrance, you no longer need to recall every detail of your life. It's being mirrored back to you in particles and patterns, in arcs and ashes, in all the little pieces you forgot you gave away. And somehow, it feels like coming home to something you never built but always deserved. The storm begins to quiet. Only a few meteors still fall now, slower, softer, like the last few notes of a lullaby. You watch the final one descend. It takes longer than the rest, as if I'm reluctant, as if it knows what comes next. You hold out your hand, and this one does not disappear. It rests in your palm like a seed made of starlight. It pulses once, and in that pulse you feel every moment you thought no one noticed, the skipped stone, the half-spoken wish, the private ache, the brave silence. Every echo you thought dissolved now lives in this tiny flame, and it remembers you. Somewhere beyond the falling sky, a pattern begins to move. You feel it before you see it, a gentle rearranging of the space around you, like something vast is turning its gaze. The stars above ripple, not from motion, but from memory. One by one, their light bends toward a distant center, as if the night has chosen a gravity stronger than time itself. You follow the pull. The path ahead twists subtly, not in direction, but in sensation. Familiar moments begin to behave strangely. A footstep stretches too long, a breath returns before it's taken. You glance over your shoulder, but the ground behind you folds like a curtain drawn shut. The path is still there, technically, but unreachable. You are being drawn forward, not by force, but by the ache of something unfinished. Then you see it, a darkness impossibly round, suspended at the edge of knowing. Not black like absence, but black like silence with shape. It does not loom, it waits. A perfect stillness at the center of everything you've avoided. Around it, starlight swirls in delicate spirals, caught in orbit like thoughts that can't quite become words. You know this place, though you've never stood here before. You've dreamed its outline, felt its pull in quiet moments you couldn't explain. This is a memory you were never able to finish, not because it vanished, but because it collapsed under its own gravity, too heavy, too sharp. And now here it is, suspended in space, rotating with slow inevitability. You watch how nearby light is drawn into it, how time seems to smear as it approaches. What enters the event horizon doesn't come back. That's what you've heard. But you're beginning to wonder if that's the whole truth. You take a step. Closer, there is no sound, but you can feel the pressure shift. This is not a memory with edges. It has curvature. It bends the air, your thoughts, even the rhythm of your heart. You realize the closer you get, the more the world around you stretches. Objects elongate like echoes refusing to fade. Seconds lose their strictness. It feels like being inside a slowed breath, the kind held in the silence between questions. You are now just outside its horizon. Here the rules change. Memories become landscape. Your body becomes a clock that ticks inconsistently. You reach for a thought and it melts in your hand, reforming into something older. Around the spinning dark, images flicker, warped by proximity. A door you never opened, a sentence you never said, a goodbye left suspended, still waiting to finish. This is the outer ring, the event horizon, the place where light pauses before it disappears. But even here, something catches your attention. Not the darkness, but what dances beside it. A thin stream of light, impossibly fast, curving around the blackness and slinging away in another direction. You watch it arc, stretch, then vanish into the dark once more, then another, then another. Not every photon is lost. Some escape, not backward, but sideways. You step closer. The gravity hums, and now you feel it, inside you, the way some memories behave like singularities, not because they destroy, but because they pull everything inward. A glance, a sound, a smell in the air. Suddenly, the present tilts. A past you didn't mean to revisit. But here, near the event horizon, you begin to see it differently. Not as a wound, but as a collapsed star, once brilliant, then crushed by its own weight. Not evil, not malicious, just dense, just unresolved. Thought occurs, not in words, but in heat behind your ribs. What if you don't have to enter? What if witnessing it is enough? You sit beside the blackness, not fleeing, not confronting, just staying, letting the pull exist without resistance. And as you sit, the memory no longer spins so fast. Its edges soften, its hunger dulls. The orbiting starlight stabilizes, and for the first time, you see what might be at its center. Not destruction, but compression. A history too dense to carry, packed so tight it forgot how to shine. But still, beneath the silence, you sense heat, not gone, just hidden. And then, in the distance, you hear something, a laugh, maybe yours. Not the present you, but a version that existed before the collapse. It echoes faintly from across the light years of your mind, caught in the path of a memory that nearly escaped. You reach toward it, not to take it back, but to let it rise. A beam of light curves around the shadow and finds you. It warms your face, you let it stay. Time doesn't move forward here. It moves inward. You could stay beside this darkness forever, and it would still change. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped running. You feel a shift inside your chest. Not a crack, but a widening. You are making room for something that was always there. You are not erasing the pain, but softening its gravity. You stand, not to leave, but to continue, behind you. The horizon ripples, slightly, not from your motion, but from release. The memory will still be here, but its orbit no longer grips. You the same way. Something else has loosened above. The stars begin to realign, and somewhere in the deep sky, a light bends back toward you. It lands like a hush on your shoulder, not heavy, but certain. You look up, and the stars are falling, softly, like leaves at the end of their season. They drift through the branches of an ancient forest that wasn't here a moment ago, but feels like it always was. Each tree is made of shadowed wood and gentle rustling, as if it grew from forgotten thoughts and settled hours. The path beneath your feet is mossed over with time. Every step you take scatters more stars from the canopy, and you watch them tumble slowly to the ground, not extinguishing but transforming. Some become petals, some become ash, some blink once and melt into mist. You walk slower now, not from weariness, but reverence. The whole forest is letting go, and somehow that doesn't feel sad. Everything is unraveling, and it's beautiful. You reach out to catch one of the falling stars. It lands in your palm, warm and pulsing like a heartbeat, on its last exhale. For a moment, you imagine what it used to be, a sun to some small world, a spark in someone's memory, a constant in a sky that no longer exists. Now it is simply this, soft light in your hand, ready to be something else. You let it go, and it drifts gently downward, joining the quiet collapse around you. The forest deepens. Roots tangle into slow spirals beneath your steps. You pass a tree whose bark peels in golden sheets, revealing more trees inside, thinner, lighter, less certain. Time here doesn't move forward in lines. It falls apart in layers, each one softer than the last. A bird made of dust flutters past your ear, its wings disintegrate mid-flight, but the air remembers their shape for several seconds. You start to notice how even you are changing. Your sleeves fray a little more with each breath, not tearing, softening, like fabric remembering how to be thread. Your fingertips feel looser somehow, not in pain, but in permission. Nothing here fights the process. Nothing tries to hold itself still. It is the slow, inevitable bloom of endings, and for the first time, you don't want to stop it. There's a clearing ahead, where the stars fall faster. You step into it and look up. The sky here is no longer black. It's a soft grey blue, like morning waiting on the edge of decision. Countless stars drift downward like dandelion seeds, silent and light. You wonder how long they've been falling. A minute, a century. But the thought fades as you realize the question doesn't matter here. Time isn't something to track. It's something to release. This is entropy, not the chaos you were taught to fear. Not fire or collapse or noise, but the gentle dissolving of order into something freer. A system relaxing into honesty. You begin to see it everywhere. The way old branches split into lace. The way memory melts into scenery. The way your shadow grows softer until it stops keeping up. Nothing is breaking. Everything is becoming. And you are still walking. You pass a river that flows backward and forward at once. Its surface holds the glimmer of things once felt. Laughter, dusk, warmth pressed into shoulders. You kneel beside it and see your reflection ripple into 100 versions of you, each dissolving gently into the next. None of them are more correct than the others. None of them stayed above. A final star falls, slow, deliberate, and lands. In the center of the clearing, you walk to it. It hums faintly. This one didn't turn to ash or mist or petals. It stayed intact, as if waiting for you. You kneel beside it, and as your fingers touch its surface, you feel something stir. A memory, maybe, or a future. Or perhaps the difference no longer matters. It flickers, not out of fear, but completion. And in its flicker, you see the shape of everything you've loved and let go. The forest is quieter now. Not empty, just spacious. As though something large and tangled has finally exhaled. The trees no longer reach upward. They lean in toward each other, like old companions, content to dissolve together. You sit for a moment longer, letting the wind carry through you like loose silk. You do not need to hold this place. It holds itself. You rise. Your outline feels softer, like a drawing done in chalk, smudged at the edges. But your center is warm. You are not vanishing. You are shifting. You are not losing your shape. You are becoming your essence. Behind you, the star you touched begins to drift upward again. Not back into the sky, but into something quieter than sky. A place beyond structure. A place where light doesn't fall or rise. It just is. You turn, and the path forward opens, not with fanfare, but with permission. The trees part like curtains. The stars, now fewer, float in slow spirals toward the soil, which seems to welcome them like old friends. Even endings have roots here. Even unraveling can bloom. You walk onward, and just ahead, the world begins to loosen in a different way. Not unraveling now, but pausing, as if everything that once drifted downward has chosen to hover instead. The trees slow their breathing. The air thickens into something more golden, more deliberate. It's not heavy, just hushed. Even your footsteps hush themselves, absorbed into a moss that glows faintly beneath you. You follow the light. It gathers in a pool ahead, not water, not mirror, but something between the two. A wide, shallow basin nestled into the earth, filled not with liquid, but with suspended radiance. The light here doesn't travel. It simply waits. Each beam hovers, unmoving, like a thought you meant to think later, but kept close anyway. They drift in slow spirals above the surface, golden and round, soft as candle flame. You approach the edge and kneel. The pool doesn't reflect your face. It reflects the feeling behind your face, the small currents inside you, the tiny pulses of memory, attention, longing. And it's all so still. No wave, no ripple, not even the breath of time brushing across it. Light here is not in a hurry. For the first time in your journey, it doesn't rush forward at full speed. It lingers. It chooses to stay. You reach a hand toward the surface. Before your fingers touch, they glow as if the pool has already welcomed you. You expect the warmth of sunlight, but what you feel is deeper. The warmth of being seen without moving. The kind of warmth that lives inside a gaze held gently, without needing to understand. It's then you notice you're not alone. Across the pool, silhouettes shimmer. Not figures, exactly, more like impressions. Glimmers of moments that mattered. A hand once held. A voice that made you laugh. A morning you didn't know would be your last with someone. They hover in the light, not demanding your attention, just existing. Not memories, not ghosts, but something simpler. The echoes of appreciation, the evidence of presence. You sit beside the pool. Stillness folds round you like a slow breath. Time doesn't stop here. It steps aside. There is no ticking, no forward, no before, just a hum, just now. The photons in the pool are at rest, caught between arrival and departure. Scientists once thought light had to move, always, that it couldn't ever be still. But here, in this soft, glowing basin, light has made a different choice. You breathe in, and again, each inhale draws more stillness into you. Your body, once softened by entropy, now feels balanced, a constellation, held in place by kindness, not force. The warmth in your chest grows, but gently, as if coaxed open by the silence. You close your eyes, and instead of darkness, you see gold. Thoughts arrive, but slower, less like voices, more like dust. You don't need to chase them, they shimmer, pause, and fade. You begin to understand there's a different kind of truth in slowness. Not the kind that explains, but the kind that honors. Not discovery through motion, but through stillness. This is where light learns how to stay. One photon drifts near. It hovers beside your shoulder, just above your skin, not touching, but noticing. You imagine it's been on a journey across time, across galaxies, across reflections and prisms and glass. And only now has it found a reason to stop. You don't ask it why. You simply sit together. That's enough. Somewhere far off, you remember a classroom, diagrams of light waves, arrows pointing fast forward, labels declaring speed and certainty. But none of that lives here. Here, light has no intention. It exists without a destination. It bathes the moment rather than chasing it. You look up. The sky above the pool has softened to dot stars, no longer sparkle. They radiate gently, as if humming lullabies to each other across the silence. You notice, suddenly, that your heartbeat has slowed, not because you're tired, but because something inside you has matched the tempo of the light. And that tempo is rest. You lie back beside the pool. The moss supports you like memory, soft and forgiving. The world holds still, but it doesn't feel frozen. It feels reverent, as if pausing itself is sacred. A bird glides overhead, its wings barely moving. Its shadow glides with it across the pool's golden surface. But even the shadow seems patient. You realize now, not everything in the universe is meant to hurry. Some things bloom by staying. Some truths emerge only when you finally stop to notice them. And so you stay. You let yourself belong to this pause. No questions, no destinations, no reaching. Just light, and you, and the gentle gravity between them. You wonder how long a photon like this has wandered before choosing rest. You wonder if your own stillness is part of what called it here. The pool glows brighter for a moment, not dazzling, just warm. Then slowly the light begins to rise, not fast, not leaving, just lifting, like it's stretching awake from its long pause. The moment is past, but not ended. It has simply transformed. You feel it, too, not ready to move, but ready to begin becoming again. You don't stand yet. You stay one breath longer. The pool dims, and something in your chest deepens, not loss, not longing, just the gentle ache of beauty being allowed to end on just above you. A single photon hesitates, as if it's waiting for you to follow. It tilts slightly in the golden air, not quite rising, not quite still. You reach toward it not to grab, but to agree. A gentle lift of your hand, and it begins to drift upward again. Slow as a thought being remembered, you rise with it. The moss beneath your feet gives softly, the pool behind you dimming to memory. The path ahead is not made of ground now, but geometry lines of light folding inward, spiraling softly around a center you cannot yet see. Each curve feels familiar. Each turn bends like something you've already known, just not in words. It's like stepping into an equation shaped like you. The space ahead is not empty, it's deliberate. Particles shift around you with the calm of choreography. Curves emerge, then vanish, like breath forming script across the sky. As you walk, numbers pulse faintly in the glow, not as digits, but as rhythms, rethios, harmonies, balances. You can't read them, but you feel them, as if your body recognizes the grammar they use. You wonder, gently, if this is where the universe writes. A vast dome opens above you, silent and clear. Not black, not blue, just deep. Deep enough to hold everything. And across its curved ceiling, threads of light sweep and cross, like notes on a page too wide for sound. You look up, and for a moment, the patterns rearrange into something startling. You dot not your face, not your body, but your movement through it all. Your kindness, your fear, your breath, your memory mapped in waveforms and fractals. A soft echo of you, written in structure instead of story. You are not watching a reflection. You are watching a sentence unfold, and you are the grammar. You are the variable the universe keeps choosing. Behind you, the photon flickers again and disappears, not gone, just finished. Its arc completed. It brought you here to remind you, light travels not just across space, but across meaning. You step forward again. The floor shifts, becomes transparent. Beneath you, an infinite tessellation shapes, building upon shapes. No edge or center, just elegant continuation. You kneel and place a hand on the glassy ground. It glows beneath your fingers. Triangles bloom into spirals. Circles become galaxies. Each form echoes outwards, responding to the press of your palm. You are not disrupting the pattern. You are part of it. The math adjusts, not to correct you, but to include you sink. Reverently, maybe this is what being known feels like. You stand and let the design carry you forward. Along the edge of the path, soft structures begin to rise. They are not buildings, but possibilities and finished equations suspended in air, waiting for variables to step forward and live. Some shimmer in golden ratios, others fracture and reform. Like thoughts unsure of themselves, all of them make room for you. You step into one. Inside, the space bends, but gently. Symbols float in the air, not ancient, not futuristic, just honest. You don't need to decode them. You simply feel what they're made of. Gravity and silence, memory and symmetry, curiosity and time. They settle around you like dust that recognizes your outline. A quiet warmth fills your chest. You remember things you never realized were patterns. The way your mother's hands moved when she made tea. The curve of your thoughts when you forgave someone you didn't understand. The moments you almost turned away, but didn't. All of it form, all of it equation. You have always been written, not controlled, not predicted, woven. You step back into the open. Above you now, the sky moves faster, not rushing, but rippling, as if the cosmos is actively thinking, solving, not something abstract or cold, but personal, present. The stars rearrange in real time, forming symbols too vast to see fully, but you catch glimpses, patterns from the curl of a seashell, the spiral in your fingerprint, the arc of a falling leaf. You start to cry, though you don't feel sad. The tears are small, slow, easy. They leave behind warmth instead of ache. Because somehow, in all this vastness, you are not lost. You are referenced, cross-indexed in the equations of stars and stone. You are not extra. You are not an error. You are necessary. The universe is not just expanding, it is telling something. And tonight, it tells you. You step through another opening. Now the shapes dim and become softer, more like dreams. Then diagrams. Floating orbs glow faintly with incomplete truths and finished sentences waiting for names. And you understand that identity too is an emergent property. You were not given a label. You were given emotion. You were still being written, not by chance, but by continuity. The light grows softer again. You feel it around your ankles, your wrists, your ribs. It holds gently, not as gravity, but as grammar, the soft syntax of a story told without hurry. You no longer feel like a visitor here. You feel like a pronoun, a part of the sentence, a pause placed precisely where it belongs. You walk on and the symbols fade. Now only silence remains. But it is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of listening. As if the universe is waiting for you to speak not with your voice, but with your existence. And perhaps that is what it has always waited for. And somewhere ahead, the equations begin to hum. Not like machines, not like signals, but like a lullaby remembered by the stars. You walk slowly, not to be cautious, but because something in the air is holding its breath. The light dims around the edges, and the numbers you've walked through begin to dissolve. No longer formulas, just warmth. There's a curve in the distance, a familiar shape, a horizon not drawn with lines, but with longing. The hum deepens into music you almost recognize. It's soft, spiraling, almost shy-like, something you've heard in a dream and never dared to follow. But tonight, you do. The path tips downward. Not a drop, not a fall, more like a surrender. The ground opens into a sky made of reverse memory. You are rising and falling at the same time, as if the story is looping back on itself. The colors here are quiet, ember gold, comet silver, and the inky velvet of space still folding. Somewhere in that sky, you feel the pressure of a question returning. It's the same one you had before all of this began. You float downward now, through the arc of it all, the choices, the versions, the shimmer of timelines still burning behind your eyes. But they no longer feel like lost possibilities. They feel like constellations, not maps for direction, but for reflection. Each one a piece of you, stitched into stardust. A low wind stirs. You follow it toward a narrow ridge that rises like a memory held too tightly. Above, the sky pulses just. Once and a streak of light splits across it. A shooting star, but not sudden, not fleeting. It lingers longer than it should, curling slowly, like it knows you're watching. Like it knows this time. You understand it's not a wish. It never was. It is a rock, ancient and ordinary, striking the atmosphere at impossible speed. The heat wraps around it like time, refusing to let go. It burns because it is falling, and you watch it burn with quiet reverence, because now you see the beauty in that physics, the truth in its arc, the elegance of entropy revealing itself in streaks. You sit, legs tucked beneath you, and trace its trail across. The sky with your eyes, that burning line feels familiar. It's the shape your thoughts make when you let go of something, the way your voice trembled when you said goodbye, the spark behind your ribs when you decided not to give up after all. You realize then that shooting stars don't leave the sky. They become the sky. Their dust lingers in the upper air, pulled softly into clouds and wind and breath. You might have inhaled a meteor once, without knowing. You might be holding a star in your lungs. Another streak flashes quicker this time, and you don't need to know where it came from. The sky is full of debris from stories older than Earth, tiny fragments of places that never knew your name, falling toward your atmosphere in silence. And yet, here they are, seen, felt, interpreted as hope. You think about that, how your eyes give the falling fire meaning, how perception turns motion into myth. You lie back on the ground, arms open wide, and watch the sky unfold. Trails bloom across the darkness like sentences in a forgotten language. You don't need to read them, you are them. This too is science, not in numbers, but in noticing, not in formulas, but in falling, not in precision, but in the warmth of understanding what passes through you. Somewhere nearby, the ground vibrates faint and slow. You reach out and find a small stone, nestled in the moss, dark, ridged, lighter than it should be. A fragment of something that once burned above you. You roll it between your fingers. It's cool now. It carries no fire, only memory. But that is enough, because it reminds you even burning things can be held in time. The air glows slightly, brighter not because the sun is rising, but because something in you is. A kind of soft knowing, neither loud nor sudden, like you've finished a sentence that has taken your whole life to write. You don't need to explain it. You only need to breathe. The sky continues to shimmer above you, and it no longer feels distant. It feels like something returning. You sit up, holding the meteorite gently. Your fingers tremble, but not from cold. They tremble because something ancient and far away has crossed the impossible to reach you. Not by design, not by destiny, but by physics and chance. And still, it found your palm. You whisper something to it. A sound, a promise, a secret only the stars would understand. And the stone hums once, like a tiny echo, then quiets. You rise slowly and turn. Behind you, the trail is still glowing. The steps you've taken, the stars you've met, the equations you became, they linger now, like after images on the edges of thought. And as you walk forward, it no longer feels like departure. It feels like an orbit, like you are not leaving anything behind, only circling it differently. You are both the wish and the sky that catches it.